mentioned, I'm Emily. I'm a solutions engineer at Algolia, and I was going to do a quick lightning talk about some lessons learned from building an SVG icon system with React. So just to sort of take a step back really quickly, why SVGs to begin with? We've been using icon fonts for so long. Why do we need to make the switch over? So it's going to bring us lots of new, improved, awesome things. The number one thing is going to be rendering is going to improve. So that means that rather than that sort of subpixel rendering that happens for text that's going to create anti-aliasing that makes everything all blurry and funny and weird, we're going to get out of the box, as it says, it's in the title, scalable vector graphics. It's going to be crisp, it's going to be clean, it's going to be exactly what we want. We're going to have more control. With icon fonts, obviously, we can change the color. We can add drop shadow. With SVG, we get stroke, we get animations, we get just so much more out of the box. Again, sizing is easier to control. They're going to be more accessible. We can add things like titles for semantics and accessibility. And then it's just easier to use. With icon fonts, we often rely on third-party library to update the font. With the SVGs, we can simply add another icon into our existing system. It's really, really easy for moving forward. Okay, so just a little picture graph of exactly what I'm talking about. On the left, we've got some icon font that's anti-alias. And then we've got a nice crisp vector icon on the right. So as you can tell, the poopy one we don't want. We want the great one. Okay, so but how do we go about using SVGs in a meaningful way? There's a couple options. We could add it as a background image using CSS. We could add it in the source of an image tag. But both of those aren't going to give us the control we want, right? We're not going to be able to change the color. We're not going to be able to change the size. And we're kind of back at square one. So the out-of-the-box definite 100% best option is going to be to use an SVG sprite. So X out, SVG sprite. Okay, so how do we go about building our sprite? Hopefully everybody can see this code, but basically we've got our SVG, we've got a defs tag, our definitions, and then each icon is just a symbol. And then what we do is we give that symbol an ID. So in this case, it's a logo, and we specify viewbox. That's all we need to include on the symbol, just the ID, so the name of it, so we can reference it later, and then the viewbox, so what size is it going to be. And then inside that symbol, we're going to include any path information with the necessary D attribute. So that's going to be a path, rectangle, circle, linear graded, anything you're used to using when you're building an SVG. It's all going to be within that symbol. What we could do is we can just go ahead straight and plop that on the page, and that's going to work. It'll work fine. But even better would be to Ajax it and then inject it. That way we can take advantage of browser caching. So how do we go about actually using icon now that we built our sprite? Again, very, very simple. We've got an SVG tag, and then we've got this use tag, and then there's this attribute called xlink href, and we're just going to go ahead and call that icon based off the ID that we created in our sprite initially. So in this case, we're just calling it by #logo. So very simple. The logo that we defined in the sprite is going to go up and appear on the page here. Okay, so this talk is about React, obviously, so you're like, where's React? So as of v.14, xlink href is natively available in JSX, which is awesome. So again, it's super, super easy to just xlink ref straight out of the box. So you don't have to do the dangerously set inner HTML hack that you had to do previously, which is awesome, yay. So that's why we have to have this little guy, and you're like, yay. So we can do better, though, right? So there is a reason we're using React. It's because we like the React way of thinking. So why don't we make it a component? That's going to give us three major wins here. First off, it's going to be reusable. It's a component. That's the point of components. Second of all, it's going to be more flexible. When we use that use tag, that's hiding everything away. It's packaging all those paths and recs and circles and everything away, and we can't actually access anymore. However, when we make it into a React component, it's all going to be inline right in the DOM, so we can access those paths. So if we want to, for example, do an animation on the D attribute of just one path, we can do that. If we want to change the fill of just one particular path, we can do that as well. It's just going to be more flexible. And also, we can make it dynamic. We can use props with React to update the fill dynamically. Again, any basically style that's associated with an SVG. So let's take a look at getting into the nitty-gritty of it. The idea is to create it as a dumb component, right? We don't need any lifecycle methods here. It doesn't have to be smart. It can be as stupid as it needs to be. It's just an icon component. We're just going to write it as a simple function. So in this case, we're declaring an icon logo. We've got our basic template here. It's got the SVG. Again, we just need the view box associated with it and the path information. And then rendering it is as simple as in our render, just putting an icon logo. Again, very, very straightforward. We're not really doing a lot more here, and we're getting a lot of added bonus. Okay, but what about using props? So as I mentioned, what we can do is we can pass in the props. In this particular case, I'm declaring a constant. That's going to be the icon fill. And I'm passing in the icon fill. And I'm also declaring a basic default. So if we don't pass an icon fill, it's just going to be a red icon. And what this is going to do for us is that we can update SVG properties dynamically based on their relative context. And this really opens up a wide world of possibilities. So I made like a very, very simple code pen example just to illustrate this, because picture is worth 1,000 words, and this is really difficult to do. I look like a crazy person. But so we see here, I've got my really, really basic app set up here with my icon logo, and right now it's set to blue. And I've got it set up here. If I go ahead and change this to orange, for example, if I can spell, you'll see that it becomes orange. So I know, very, very basic. But the idea is that there's a lot of possibilities here. If I get rid of it entirely, you see it's going to go to my default. It's going to become red. And now I have to somehow get back to, made it. Okay. And one other thing I wanted to mention is this is also really useful for accessibility, something that hopefully people are starting to focus on more. What we can do is actually pass in, just as a prop, the icon title. So in this case, all we're going to need to do is add this extra title attribute, pass in an icon title, and then you're also going to need this aria labeled by. It's sort of left over. Hopefully we can move forward, but 2 items here. And then again, that title should be relevant. It should be specific. It should tell users who are blind, who are unways impaired, what this icon is trying to tell those who can't understand it. So yeah, the world is your oyster. There's lots more you can do with this method, but I just wanted to give you a high-level overview. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Emily.